Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today I would like to talk about how we may be about to learn so much about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond in this big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that is airing on April 2nd. We've already had discussions on how it seems very likely that Metroid Prime 4 is being saved for the Switch 2 Direct, yes, implying that it is going to be some form of a cross-generation game. And at this point, I don't think many people are going to disagree. Perhaps some, but the arguments have already been made. What we're focusing on here is what we may learn about Prime 4 in this Switch 2 Direct and what will follow, such as the Switch 2 Experience events. Because I think we're about to get a grand blowout of this game, and there's so much to learn about it. This is going to be a magnificent, huge game, and it's just going to be a fun time learning everything there is to learn about Metroid Prime 4, and so I want to have a fun discussion on what some of those things may be. But before going forward, let me take this moment to point out that I am aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers by the time the Switch 2 launches, so if you find yourself enjoying my content, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit that notification bell. So let's start off with perhaps one of the most obvious things. I think we're likely going to get a better understanding of the release timing of this game. If this game is indeed going to be part of the Day 1 launch lineup, we will know on April 2nd. If it's going to be coming out a little bit later, then we're not going to be told that it's going to be a launch title. We may not even get a specific release date, but I think it's very likely we'll at least have a better understanding of when of the year it is coming out. Maybe they just tell us a season or a month, but I wouldn't be surprised if we still get a specific release date, because even if it's not going to be coming out in that first day alongside maybe Mario Kart, I think it still makes sense for it to come out pretty early on into the Switch 2 era, for a few reasons. One, Nintendo may want to really capitalize on the excitement for Switch 2 and have Metroid Prime 4 be involved in that, especially if they are indeed including it in the Switch 2 Direct. That would make a lot of sense. But also, if Mario Kart is going to be the Day 1 launch title, I think that also implies that 3D Mario is probably going to be a big holiday title, so presumably that will be coming out in October or November. But then we've also recently learned that Pokemon Legends ZA is also coming out around that time as well. So it seems like October or November are going to be reserved for Legends ZA and Mario. And I doubt we would have to wait all the way until December to see Metroid Prime 4. And so we're looking at a release at maybe the latest September of this year, I would say. But I'm still even leaning earlier, because we also know about this official Nintendo collaboration with Piggyback to make this Metroid Prime 1 through 3 visual retrospective, and that's coming out in June. And something like that coming out in June, I think sort of implies that Primes 2 and 3 will be made available to the public by that point, and given that we haven't seen them yet, my personal thinking is that they are being saved very close to the release of Metroid Prime 4, which I do think means that Prime 4 wouldn't be coming out that much further beyond the release of this art book. And so basically I think Prime 4 is likely going to be out before the end of the summer, and if it really is that close, then us having a big showcase of the game in the Switch 2 Direct I think would also likely come with a release date. But we're going to learn a lot more than just the release date. If we are at the point where they're going to be giving us a release date, then they're going to be telling us a lot about this game. For example, that there will be voice acting. I expect that we will start to hear some voice acted lines in the next Metroid Prime 4 trailer, and I don't think that's too crazy of an expectation. Metroid Prime 3 Corruption had a great deal of voice acting the prior Prime game, and even the most recent Metroid entry, Metroid Dread, a 2D Metroid game, had a lot of voice acting as well. 2D Metroid doesn't have as big of a budget or scope, and yet they still put voice acting there, and it was pretty amazing. So I think from both a historical perspective and a modern standard, it makes sense to think that Prime 4 is going to have voice acting here. But I think Nintendo is going to take this a step further here. Perhaps the best examples would be looking at how Nintendo treated both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. These major Zelda games had voice acting, but the trailers were grand and epic, and they told an inspiring tale. They got people excited and eager to pick up these games. And I think that they're going to deliver a captivating trailer for Metroid Prime 4 similar to what they did for the amazing trailers we saw for both Breath and Tears. Like, just imagine seeing a 3-minute trailer of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, showing off the amazing visuals, showing off the different exotic, awe-inspiring alien worlds you can explore, showing off all the fast-paced combat and the different crazy abilities of Samus, showing Samus doing some crazy moves while she fights some epic giant monsters, and then also mixed in there are some incredible, powerful, voice-acted lines from different characters in the game that show us some pretty strong beats, and that's all put together with amazing music, which Retro Studios is known to put in their games, especially the Metroid games. And I think we could be looking at a trailer that is just going to excite the masses here. That first Metroid Prime 4 trailer was just a little taste, a teaser, an appetizer. This next one is going to be something grand, and I think it's going to really appeal to a lot of people because of how exciting it's going to be. But where would these voice-acted lines be coming from? Will Samus talk? She may, she can, she does it in Dread, so we might even see her talk, and I think that would be a pretty powerful moment, but of course it's something they may want to save for the game itself, although that's going to depend a lot on the overall direction of the game. But a character that I do expect to speak a lot is Sylix, and perhaps we might hear from a Chozo or something as well. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of characters where we can hear some talking. And so we're clear here. What I'm getting at is just how exciting the trailer is going to be and that we are going to hear some voice-acted lines. That's what I think is going to happen. But that is not me saying that the game is going to be chock full of voice acting all throughout the entire adventure. There may be moments, similar to Metroid Prime 3, where there is a lot of character interaction, but that's not going to be the majority of the game. The majority of the game is going to be Samus on her own, isolated, exploring these different alien environments. And so you might think there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but perhaps look at it kind of like the Breath and Tears of the Kingdom trailers. The way those trailers were presented, in some ways you could argue was a little misleading because you may have been led to believe that there's like this giant grand story, and there is, but it is told in parts. The majority of the adventure is just you running around doing different things with minimal voice acting throughout the majority of the gameplay. And so I just wanted to establish that I think a similar thing may be happening here. But on the note of the gameplay, I do think we're going to learn so much. I do think we are going to see some boss fights. We didn't see any boss fights in the first one. We're going to see boss fights. We're going to see different areas. And I think we're going to get a much better understanding of some of the new gameplay additions in Prime 4. Like, I'm still very curious about the bottom left side of the screen that they show in the first trailer, because we can see these 4 different arrows representing the D-pad, I would assume, and one of them is for your missiles. But what about the other 3? What else is there? I bet we'll learn about at least one more in this trailer, if not more. And we'll also probably get a better understanding of how the arm cannon is going to work. Is it going to work like Prime 3, where you just have the one beam weapon that improves over time, or is it going to be like Primes 1 and 2, where you can switch around? Personally, I hope you can switch around. I like the ability to do different things in different situations, and maybe the main beam weapon will still work like Prime 3, but they will still include a variety of other ways to attack, that it's still going to give you that variety that we liked from Primes 1 and 2, we'll see. But point is, I think we're going to learn about that to at least some extent in this Switch 2 Direct. I also think we'll get a much better understanding of just how grand in scope this game is. Is it going to be open world? I don't think it will be, at least not in the truest sense. But we're going to see more areas, we're going to see Samus explore these areas, and we'll have a much better picture of how the exploration is going to go. Personally, I've been envisioning something a little bit like maybe the original Dark Souls, where there are some large areas to explore, but there still are those close corridor areas as well, and it's all intertwined and interconnected like one giant maze. Basically, like Metroid Primes 1 and 2, but grander. But regardless of whether I'm right or wrong about the overall structure of the exploration in Prime 4, we're going to learn more about it. Now, something we may not see in the trailer itself, but still learn a little bit more about the game, is the Switch 2 mouse-con functionality. We already pretty much know for a fact that the Switch 2 Joy-Cons will have a mouse controlling feature. And Metroid Prime 4 would be an incredible fit for this technology because it essentially allows us to mimic mouse and keyboard controls to an extent, which are really good for first-person shooters. And Metroid Prime 4 is a first-person shooter. It's a first-person shooting adventure game, but yes, it has first-person controls, and those mouse controls would fit really well with that. And so I imagine at some point during the Direct, we will see an example of this. I'm not sure we'll see it during the trailer itself, but I think there's a good chance that the trailer is not going to have paid actors showing them play the game in different places. It's just going to be a Metroid Prime 4 trailer. However, there may be other moments, maybe in just a more general Switch 2 trailer that has paid actors playing different games in different ways, perhaps using the mouse controls playing Metroid Prime 4. We may see a snippet of that. Or there may be a moment where they explain the different features of the Switch 2, including those mouse controls, and they may show examples. One of those examples could be Metroid Prime 4. To me, that makes a lot of sense, so I think we may learn a little bit about the mouse controls and how it relates to the Metroid Prime 4 in this way. But with Metroid Prime 4 being in this Switch 2 Direct, I think Nintendo will need to address the big elephant in the room. Metroid Prime 4, a Switch 1 title, being in the Switch 2 Direct. They will need to speak on this version of Prime 4 for Switch 2. Will it have visual enhancements? Are there any changes from the Switch 1 version? They're going to have to speak on that, probably also still reiterate that it's coming to Switch 1. And this may include conversations about other cross-generation games and not just Prime 4. But I expect we'll get some insight into what's been changed for Prime 4 on Switch 2. I mentioned the mouse control functionality stuff, and I also think there will be some visual changes, and that I think will be highlighted during the Direct to some extent. It may just be very vaguely. They may just say, Metroid Prime 4 will be made available for Switch 2 enhanced visually with mouse control functionality. It may be as simple as that. But something about it will be said. Even if it's not in the Direct, I think there will have to be some sort of statement that comes out soon after. And on the note of going a little bit beyond the Direct, yes, pun intended there, we should also acknowledge that the Switch 2 Experience events are going to happen immediately afterwards. We're going to see people playing Switch 2 and games on Switch 2. And if Metroid Prime 4 is going to be included in the Direct, as many of us now believe, then I think there's a really good chance it will be part of this experience. We're going to see playable builds of this game. We're going to see demonstrations. And so on April 2nd, we're going to learn a lot about Metroid Prime 4, but that's just going to be the beginning of a massive blowout regarding Metroid Prime 4, because then we're going to see people playing the game, or if you're lucky enough, you're going to get to go to the Switch 2 Experience event and play it yourself. And so if you are, I'm jealous, but yes, that is going to happen, it seems. And so we're going to start to get a good understanding from people's impressions of how the game feels, how it flows. They'll likely only show like the first area, maybe that first area we see in the trailer, perhaps that's the beginning of the game. And so that's what will be playable, but even though we've already seen it in the trailer, getting to see more of it from different angles and how it plays and how it moves, there's a lot we can learn about this game from people experiencing that early area. And one last point I'll make here. With the first Metroid Prime 4 Beyond trailer, I really just think it was a taste. You look at some of the first trailers we've gotten for a lot of big Nintendo games, they usually are just a taste. They don't really tell you all there is to know about the game. But that next big trailer usually showcases a lot more of the game and helps to identify why it's so unique in its respective series. And so this next look at Metroid Prime 4 I think is going to really help us understand what is so different about this game compared to prior games, if there are any differences. I personally think there are, and we're going to see them. At least some of them. And that's a little bit more of a bonus point to be made here. You look at Tears of the Kingdom, for example. We did not know about the depths until the very end, so there could still be some crazy things they hide about this game until it actually comes out. But we're going to learn so much, and that has me so excited for April 2nd. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.